Man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, to have this time, I feel so fortunate to be able to go down there now. And again, though, like full credit to Remy Warren. He went and saw that place, 10, 12 years ago, and he fell in love with it, and for good reason. I mean, it is next level challenge if you're up for an adventure or just the challenge of a hunt or learn a new species.
Welcome to the Rich Outdoors, where we break down the tips, tactics, and strategies of hunting's greats to not only help you become better hunters, but to motivate and inspire you between hunting adventures. For more about us, including additional resources on our guests and links to everything we cover in the interview, check out therichoutdoors.net. Alrighty, welcome to the podcast. We're in studio. Good buddy Ryan Lampers conned him into coming in again. You got to drag him.
You don't have to con me to come into the studio ever, any day.
So today's podcast brought to you by Onyx, Go Hunt, all the good things. This time of year, this is a perfect person to have on the podcast for this sponsorship, because I know Ryan uses Go Hunt and Onyx about as much as I do. This time of year, it's pretty much. I was on Go Hunt this morning when you walked in. I was on Go Hunt. So
that's what you were doing.
What's your thought? You use Go Hunt? Is Go Hunt worth it? If someone asked you that.
Absolutely. No, I recommend it all the time. I'm usually on it in the evenings. I wouldn't even want to see my log time on there because it's probably ridiculous. And, half the time my wife thinks I'm working, but I feel like I'm studying when I'm on Go Hunt, research time. But.
I use mine. I have both tabs open, Go Hunt, Onyx, and it's like I'm finding stuff on Go Hunt and I'm panning right to Onyx to figure out, if just clarifying what I see. I go back and forth between the two. It's
so valuable. Maybe it didn't used to be when I was a one-state hunter, right?
Totally.
But when you become someone that wants to go look at new places, new challenges, adventures, my memory's not that good. So I can't, just keeping up with how different states work, different tags, different hunts. You can go into Go Hunt and just figure all that out pretty easily, looking at different places and different units and draw odds and all that. And, it used to be a lot more difficult, but now I feel like I can get most of the information off Go Hunt.
It's like a refresher. I want to know how many times I've looked up the same hunt and got excited and wait, I think I've seen this hunt before, this unit or this area.
Oh, I know. I was I know what the draw odds are for that hunt.
I have to look it up again.
Let's see what they are again. Oh, yeah, they're the same, but now I know.
All right, guys. Someone asked me the other day, they're like, is it worth it? And same thing you just said. Like, if you're a one-state hunter, if you only hunt your home state, probably not. But if you ever want to go out and hunt other states, it's a must-have in my opinion.
It just saves so much time. Any other route, digging through old magazines and trying to figure that out on your own, going through the state.
Even state planners.
State planners, they're tough. And no, it's all in one spot, right on your laptop. Look it up, all the draw odds you want. And it has all the filters that, you can really kind of comb through and detail a hunt that you want specifically. And
how does Ryan Lampers use filters?
How do I use filters? Well, honestly, I don't.
What's your key filters that you're like, you go in, you're like, I'm going to select, I don't know, let's just say Idaho elk. Mm-hmm. What are you filtering for?
I'm looking for opportunity type hunts, quite honestly. I typically don't go for those real difficult hunts. You've probably noticed. I've got a couple states where I put in long term, but man, high percentage hunts. I've treated Nevada that way. I've treated Idaho that way. Anything that's going to get me out there with the opportunity at a more of a age class type critter, whether that's deer or elk. So I'm not going in looking at the hunts that are 5% or less. My filter is a certain age class. And then
how do you filter on Go Hunt for that though?
You can't do an age class, but it's if you're looking for bulls, you want 300 plus. Typically,
that's what I was curious. Do you run your filter? Let's say bucks or bulls. Do you run your filter 180 and then just try to figure out what units are going to have over 180, or is it So you're looking for that, and then looking for
that really narrows down your windows when you put that filter to 180 on a mule deer area for sure.
I like to go say go filter 180 on bucks, and then go back to okay, these are the units. I'm like, these 3 units right here. And then I draw it back and see what's neighboring and see if there's like nooks and like the little pieces. Because inevitably everyone sees they filter to 180 and those units are probably like a 2% draw.
Tough to get.
Yeah. And so I'm like, okay, how can I get the same result? Because there's a lot of units. In most states, there's units that don't necessarily filter out at 180, but they definitely have 180 bucks, right? Yeah. Maybe it's just not as high a number of those caliber of bucks. So like, I don't know. I was just kind of curious.
Yeah, it's just fun to play with it. I go back and forth from the numbers to the map and back and forth like you do. Mm-hmm. And, for elk, for example, there's a significant amount of elk units that are 280, 290 type areas. And those are great opportunity hunts. But generally that tells you there's just not an age class type terrain that you're not going to have an age class. There's probably, whether it's extended rifle hunts, more opportunity rifle hunts, probably not an area I'm going to want to go into archery season if I can avoid it.
Yeah.
But
that's why I need Onyx, because the first thing I'm going to do is like, okay, why? And then usually if I look at Onyx, I can look at the terrain and I can order like how much remote, how much private, how much public. Those questions, I'll look at Onyx to confirm everything and be like, okay, I think there still could be an age class here. Even if maybe Go Hunt says it's, 280 bulls, 290 bulls. I'm like, man, there's got to be better bulls. Yeah. Like just because looking at terrain. And then sometimes not. Sometimes you look at it like, this is going to get hunted hard. There's roads everywhere. Like,
there's a couple things. It's like remoteness. Has a lot to do with age class. Typically, you get tough
That's like
terrain.
your MO, though.
It is. That's what I look for. Roadless type areas, and then you typically find age class there. You also find age class in very, very limited tag numbers. Those aren't the type areas I want because I don't want to be putting in for 20 years to draw a hunt. I'd just rather have opportunity type hunts and make the best of it. Whether that's a lesser buck, but a really fun type, remote type hunt, I prefer that every time. Yeah.
So that's what we're going to talk about a little bit today. Anyway, if you guys want to use, you want to sign up for Go Hunt, I highly recommend it. Use the code TRO. You guys will get $50 back towards the gear shop. Same code TRO for Onyx, saves you 20%. Both tools, highly necessary, highly effective. And I think if you want to get out of the bubble of hunting your home state, that's the best first step. And man, I hate to beat a dead horse, but a lot of people are like, how do I get started in applying game? Just pick one state. Don't look at it as I have to apply in every state next year. The first thing I did was start applying in Idaho. And from Idaho, it was like, cool, what's next? And if you apply in one other state, and you should be hey, pick a state that, say you're a mule deer guy and you want an early season, go to Nevada. If you're an elk guy, figure out Idaho. Do something, do one state, and that's going to suck you down the vortex of going on adventures in multiple states and then in multiple countries. That's what we're going to talk about today. Ryan went to New Zealand last year, planning a trip right now, so I wanted to have him on, talk about DIY planning adventures. That's your MO, doing stuff on your own and doing really hardcore adventures. I think that a lot of people look at that and be like, man, that's crazy. I can never get there.
Sure.
But, walk us through, you started a long time and it's built up to this, right? Yeah. But if you could go back, I think it's not that hard,
It took me a lot of years before I actually committed to going to New Zealand. Mm-hmm. I was like most folks. I remember when Remy started going over there and it was like, man, just seeing the photos and the animals that he was getting, the Tahr. And it's incredible, right? Yeah. You see that and it's like, man, I wish that I could do that someday, but probably can't.
What stopped you?
Not having any knowledge about it, really. Yeah. It was just uneducated. I didn't look into it because I just thought it was unattainable. I didn't really look into it and look at the pricing. Mm-hmm. I was like, man, airline tickets, I heard they're over $1,000. Gosh, that trip is just going to stack up real fast. But when you take away tag prices, there are no tag fees.
Yeah.
That right there really cuts back on the dollars that you're going to spend on a trip like that. Last year going into it, I started piecing together everything that was going to cost me. And shockingly, it was just for what you get out of that trip and the animals that you can take and the terrain that you're in. And it's just such a unique experience. Shockingly cheaper than most hunts that you'll do here, like say for obviously way cheaper than sheep or goat that you're going to find here. It's a trip that you can do for $3,000. Most of that comes in airfare, right?
Yeah.
And if you're a guy that, you know, has miles, you can do it for a lot less.
Yeah, that's true.
So
let's walk. If for anybody who hasn't seen the film, last year you and Brian did a film, Brian Call. It was on Gritty's channel. You guys kind of did a little bit of a series on your New Zealand hunt. It was an epic adventure.
Yeah.
I don't know if we talked about it on the podcast or in person. I don't remember.
I think we did it in person. Yeah.
We have never talked.
I was so jacked when I came back from that trip.
This is true. Ryan comes back. He's like, "You gotta go. You gotta go." Talk about that hunt. So you guys had planned. You like went through. You're like, "I'm doing it. I'm going on this hunt," and you were going Tahr hunting. Essentially, that's the equivalent. For anybody who doesn't know, that's the equivalent of a mountain goat hunt here. Pretty close, pretty similar. There's a lot of variations to that hunt, though, right?
Right. Oh, yeah. I mean, the opportunity over there is incredible. I mean, pick a species that you want to go for. For me, it was Tahr, number one. Something about that. And let's face it, Cody, I've never drawn a goat tag.
Yeah.
Maybe I never will. I hope to. I've never hunted sheep, you know. I hope to, but I might not. And if I really want to go hunt a goat, I'm going to have to pay some dollars. I'm too cheap for that, as well as sheep.
But there's a certain piece of it, like doing it yourself versus like going on a guided mountain goat hunt. Doesn't have. I want to go goat hunting, but it doesn't have that much appeal to me because I don't think a guided mountain goat hunt is going to be that crazy.
No, and that's why I always wanted one tag. I wanted to draw a goat one time. It was my home state. It was in Washington State.
Yeah.
I just wanted to draw it. It was a tag I could go do myself, non-guided. A lot of goats, a lot of opportunities. It would have been a great bow tag. Now that I'm a non-res to my home state, I've lost a lot of opportunities to draw that tag. So now I'm in Montana. Hopefully I can pull the tag here. We'll see. Unguided, though, is definitely what I would focus on. And you know, when you get into the guided stuff, it just costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I don't want to pay that money. I'd much prefer, I mean, I've never done a guided trip in my life, and I hope never to have to.
Yeah.
You know, nothing against it, but
that's your identity. That's who you are.
I just want to do it myself. It's what it's the enjoyment I get is putting together a hunt, a big adventure, and trying to, you know, figure it out, dial it in, and come away with some success.
For me, 50% of a hunt's enjoyment is from planning it.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
That's why I love
the build
going
up to it. It's you know, almost more exciting, like getting all your gear together, planning this trip, doing all the necessary stuff prior to the trip, and then you do the trip.
Yeah.
But a lot of that build up was pre-trip.
Oh yeah.
And I just don't want somebody else to aid me in any of that. I just like doing it myself.
So you started putting numbers together for New Zealand. You're like, wow, this is actually attainable. Where does a guy start? Like, walk me through your process the first year and maybe how that's changed to this year and like what we need to do to like plan one of these hunts.
Yeah, and you know, the information age that we're in right now, there's just with social media, let's be honest, there are a lot of folks that are open with information, which is great. I mean, you have the ability to access almost anyone.
Yeah.
So I started reaching out to folks. Brian Call started reaching out to people that he had actually already been over there. So I had some information from him, which helped a lot. But guys like Remy, I mean, man, he's a book of knowledge and he's got a lot of information. There's a lot of articles and whatnot, but there's a lot of people that have been there and just reaching out, getting little bits of information. You know, I had a buddy who had been there the prior year. I gleaned a lot from him. Dave Baronio had been over there and he had been guiding, you know, for a couple of years. And he was a guy that just is so open. You just message him and he messages you back and he'll just tell you anything and everything you want to know as far as logistics, travel, you know, entry, re-entry into the States, those type things. Those were my big questions.
So like legalities. We can break this up into like, okay, where do I even start, like as far as an area?
Yeah.
And then where to get within the legalities. Let's open up to areas first and then we'll dive into some of the legalities. Like, because I think those are probably most people's hiccups is, well, I think there's two, like how do I get a gun? How do I get my bow there? You know, what tags do I need? You know, all these things. Let's circumvent that for a second and just talk about like, okay, how do you know where to go?
Yeah.
So like I think the best option, like you said, is reach out to 10 people.
Absolutely.
Like even if you don't know anyone who's ever been there, like find a group, find something, and start the chain. Like someone once told me, like if you don't get the answer you want, call 10 more people.
Yeah.
And like that's some of the best like life career advice you'll ever get. Is like someone will give you the answer. Just keep calling.
Absolutely. Oh, and you know, in New Zealand, it's getting looked at a lot now, and there's a lot of people here in the States that are going over there and checking it out. Brian Barney, for example, he was just over there prior to my trip last year, so I got to talk to him. And these are, they're my friends, but for the most part, anybody and everybody can reach out to these guys, and they are happy to give information. So, you're totally right. It's like reach out, ask questions, looking at areas. Nobody wants to give up their spots, but one of the things that it was kind of over and over I kept getting back from people is the DOC over there, the Department of Conservation. They're really good about, on their website, information, access points, maps. They have something similar to an Onyx style. I think it's called NZ Topo 50 or something like that. And you download that app, and that gives you basically the mapping of the entire South Island. Yeah. And it has every hut, every access point. You can look at all the public lands that are available in yellow. It's very similar. And so that alone was incredible because I could see, okay, well, the West Coast, there's a ton of public land on the West Coast of that South Island. And what I've always heard from other folks is that West Coast is where the adventure is, right? It's huge mountains, a lot more weather. So we had decided there was a couple things that we wanted to do. We had some bear hunts that we wanted to do prior to this trip. So it was kind of putting a crunch as far as when we could go. We looked at June. Think about when you go over there at June, that's their winter time. So snowstorms,
weather it was basically like November weather for you.
Yeah, weather can be a big factor. And so we were prepared for that. For the most part, not with the crampons and the climbing gear. We should have had that. We weren't prepared there, but clothing wise and just going to an area, we went more mid mountain. We didn't go West Coast, hoping for a little bit better weather, areas that we could drop out of it if it was fogged in or whatever. And
having that backup plan.
Still hunt. Yeah. We could have dumped down and hunted the lower country if need be. So that was kind of one of the plans that we had made for that time of year. Now, June, also what you get with June is you get these tahr that have these really long manes, and that was exciting.
It's no different than like if anybody knows anything about goat hunting, you can kill a goat in August. They're usually not the prettiest goat you've ever seen because they're like molting or whatever they call it, where they're like shedding essentially. Sure. Their hair's growing in and just kind of patchy.
Yep.
Similarly, like the later you go for a mountain goat, a lot of guys will stick it out till late October. They call it haired up. So once they get haired up, they're gorgeous. And I mean, that's what you're looking for in a mountain goat. You're not looking for a trophy rack. You're looking for like this beautiful haired up goat. And that's what you get with a tahr.
Yes. And that's what I wanted. Yeah. Exactly. It's like, I look at a tahr, I look at the rack or the horns on there, and I'm like, all right. Yeah, like you said, similar to a goat. Being a complete novice, I didn't know what to look for. Yeah. But what excited me was that big long mane, that blonde. Some of them are dark, some of them are blonde, just different colors, really long. I wanted that hide. I wanted to get the hide back and get that thing all tanned up, and that was exciting. And so that was a big part of what went into wanting to go in June. Now, most folks will tell you they would recommend earlier in the season, just a little bit safer with the weather. But we really wanted to kind of...
But Ryan's got to do an adventure.
We wanted the adventure
almost die every time.
And we figured maybe a few less people also traipsing around the mountains. But once we got there, we realized, it's not...
The mountains are so big.
You don't really have to worry about people. No, the country is... It's funny, you look at New Zealand, you're like, oh, man, it just doesn't look that big. And then you get there, and it is huge. I mean, just public land forever. So the mountains were huge. It just, everything feels unexplored for some reason. And their system over there is different. They maintain these huts. When you think of a hut, you don't feel like you're in like a real true backcountry scenario, but you are over there. the DOC, they maintain these huts for
like
adventure
back up
guys.
a little bit. So the huts are basically, they're like Forest Service cabins essentially, but there's a heck of a lot more of them than we have here. And they have like, you can rent them. Some cost money, some don't. Like there's a ton of variation. Some of them
size is completely different. We found some that were 6 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah. Like a tent.
Like tiny, you know, but they all have at least 2 bunks. Some of them have 8 bunks, but they all have a fireplace. You can get in out of the weather, you know, heat up the fireplace, whatever. And
so did you, when you we were talking about choosing location, did you base that somewhat upon those huts? Because I know I've seen an article that Remy wrote, and it's like, yeah, you can camp out of these huts and hunt Tahr. Like, if I know you, you're like, well, a hut's too people central. I'm going 13 miles past that hut.
Yeah,
the farthest from any hut I've ever seen.
It's like built into our psyche from hunting here, right?
Yeah.
A hut just sounds like
that's where everyone camps.
Too domestic. You want to get away.
Sounds like a trailhead.
Yeah, sounds like a trailhead. So yeah, our thought was we would dump into a real remote area. Now the first leg of our trip, we went with a chopper. I know a lot of folks are a little weirded out by choppers. They feel like it's, I don't know, cheating, I guess, or the cost. Mm-hmm. You know, for the most part, it costs $700 to $1,200, average of about $1,000. Basically, their chopper system that they do over there, that's a drop camp. I mean, it's like they do here. You don't see horses over there bringing guys in. Yeah. You see choppers bringing guys in and dumping them into that terrain.
For the people who are like, you know, you big baby, like, why'd you take a chopper? Ryan's probably the most hardcore dude I've ever been around. And if he's okay with taking a chopper, I feel like I should be okay with taking a chopper. Was it a gimme? I get there's like gimme hunts where they take you in a chopper and you shoot it from 12 feet away from it. Like, you can make it what you want, right?
Yeah, you can. You're not going up in a chopper looking for animals, setting down and going and shooting those animals. That was not there was none of that.
It's like drop camp.
It was like looking on a map. Okay, very remote, a known area that has a lot of tar. Let's go here. Is there an area that you can drop us off up here? And you talk to the chopper pilot, and he's like, yeah, I can set you down here. There's a hut here. There's a hut here. But you can take off from this hut. You can go wherever, you know. Sky's the limit. And what the advantage of the chopper is time.
Yeah.
Now, we could have rented a truck and driven up these river basins. The problem is they almost recommend you rent 2 trucks, because if one truck, you have an issue. Because let's face it, you are remote, and you are bebopping down some nasty old riverbeds that are constantly changing, boulders everywhere. It could take you a couple days to drive up, or you take a 30-minute chopper ride. And
how would you equate it to getting dropped off in the bob by an airplane? Like, is it virtually the same?
Yeah, basically more remote, definitely. You know, you go, gosh, you drive. What we did, we drove forever just to get out to this little helipad, and you meet up with the guy that you've had communications with, and you're like, okay, we want to go here, and he just brings you up, just sets you off, and he's not an outfitter, he's not a guide. His number one job is just that transportation. You pick where you want to go. Yeah. He's going to bring you there.
Well, and one of the problems you guys had is that you're like, I want bow hunting country. And so then the guy stuffed you in like the timber, right?
So here's the deal. We wanted remote. That was like our criteria. We wanted remote, no people. That was kind of what we were looking for. And we should have been way more specific, because here's a mistake we made. The pilot, being not a hunter, he was like, okay, bow hunters, remote. What's gonna be the best for them for bow hunting? I know. I'm gonna put them in a real thick area, so they can sneak around and get in tight on these animals. I don't know about you, Cody. I want open when I'm bow hunting. You know, small windows of opportunity with a bow are very difficult, and you just cannot cover country in that thick stuff. So he set us off in this basin, and we agreed to it. We were like, you know, that looks good on a map. But then we got there, we were like, wow, it is so thick, it's impenetrable. So you're stuck with basically traveling riverbeds and creek beds, and that's it. And so travel is very, very difficult. So he dropped us in a spot, and here's the problem. We loaded up this chopper with all our stuff. I get my bow in there, or he puts my bow in there, but he put it behind the back seat. There's like seats on the back of that chopper. He put it behind the seat. And then he was kind of handing gear out to us in this spot, and it had just dumped a couple feet of
chaos. You're
snow.
getting dumped in a chopper.
Yeah, we're just like chucking gear out of there. He's going to get out, chucks all our gear out, and we think we're done. And he basically says goodbye and number for with an in reach and takes off. And we're looking around, and I'm looking for my bow, and my bow is gone. It's in the chopper. So he takes my bow. Fortunately, we had Brian's rifle for backup, and quite honestly, where we were dumped, the rifle was the only way to go anyway. So it worked out. But
so remember all your gear out of the chopper. And I would say, like, you would recommend, like, okay, let's just book a chopper. Like, don't be a tough guy.
You know, there's two trains of thought. You could hunt the lower country very, very easily, and I'd recommend that if you're going to go over there and bow hunt it. What we learned on the end of our trip is after we came out of that first leg, we brought a couple Tahr out. We dumped down. We basically went, cut up all the meat and everything, and then we hopped in the rental car and just drove to an access point. Hiked in 3 to 5 miles, and we were more. It was way more open, and there is a ton of public land that we could have just, which we found out at the end that last week that we were there. Perfect stocking conditions, tons of Tahr. It was late season, so a lot of the Tahr were kind of down there doing their thing, rutting, and man, we saw way more Tahr in the low country than we did in the high country, and it was so
it's
easy
almost counterintuitive that if you want more adventure, take a chopper and get in farther, and if you want less adventure, don't hire a chopper and go to kind of the foothills.
Yeah, no, obviously you can bow hunt any of that country, but the tussock grass and the stuff that we were hunting at the end was just built for bow hunting. I mean, it was real easy. We had shot a couple of Tahr.
Isn't that what Barney hunted more of too?
Yeah. He hunted a lot of different areas with Remy over there, and let's face it, Remy's got some spots he's put in the years, and he just knows it like the back of his hand. But oh man, we were just playing around with Tahr in the end, and we had our rifles, but we were sneaking in on those Tahr, and easily getting in 40, 50 yards, and then just we had already taken enough at that point. But it was just a blast. But again, that was an area that we did not need a chopper. We just drove like anybody would to an access point or a trailhead.
Okay.
Hiked in 3 to 5 miles. And even in those lower access areas, there's huts. So you can just go stay in a hut. So, like you said, some of them you have to rent them in advance. Some of them you don't. They're free.
What's your recommendation on huts? Would you try to map one out, see if you can rent one? Would you just avoid the huts? Like, what's your overall opinion now that you've been there? Or maybe what are you doing this year?
I'm always going to have, I don't plan on staying in a hut, but I want to know where they're at, in case of emergency. I think they're valuable in that respect. Now, when we were there, we had some weather in June. They were really nice to go back to. We had Luke, one of the guys with us. He bummed his leg. Second day in, just tweaked his knee. So we left him at a hut so he could kind of nurse that knee and get back to health. Wouldn't have been very comfortable for him, in our little teepee and trying to keep up. But no, that was a great opportunity to use the hut for something.
So know where they're at, but
know where they're at, not necessary. Now, where we were, real rocky, nasty terrain. Finding areas to set teepees up, you got to compromise a little bit. Mm-hmm. It's kicking out in the snow, trying to find flat spots, but it's definitely doable. But I don't plan on using huts this year. When we go back in there, we're going to have a base camp, and then we're going to have those little Dyneema seek outside teepees, Cimarrons with stoves. And even though we're going in April, we're planning for the worst of weather. This time we're going to head to that West Coast, and it's going to be probably a lot of rain. We're going to need the ability to dry off.
So walk me through, like, what's your thought process behind last year you went in June, this year you're moving to April. Like, what's your thought there? Like,
so it should be a lot warmer.
Trying something new?
Yeah, trying something new. We're going to be there for more of that stag. We want to try some of those public land stag this year. Still number one for me is going to be those Tahr. Yeah. It just feels like I'm hunting goats or sheep, And where those things take you is basically up to the tops into those glacier fields, and that's kind of just where I want to put my focus. But
you just can't get on the elk train, can you?
Nah, I mean the stag is going to be secondary. It's going to be it's we're going to do it.
Yeah.
We've got some areas that we think are going to pan out for us, just public land stag, and it's during the roar. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see that.
And I think it'd be really cool to kill a public land stag. I don't care if it's a raghorn. Like,
Nope.
It would be cool to kill a public land
Absolutely.
stag, during the roar.
Yeah.
And I have no desire, like, you see these 320 bulls and 350 bulls. No desire to shoot one off any high fence. Like,
No.
cool if you do it. I get that there's some people to go do the experience, and that's their experience. My experience is like, me planning it, I think, has more to do with the adventure. Doing it on my own has more to do with, like, I just want to go out and rough it. Like, even if I don't see a stag, that would be a cool trip. Like, that's the experience I want. And that's just me personally. If you want to go to, like, this big ranch and shoot one on the first day. And
absolutely.
cool.
Talking to Bronio, I mean, he was guiding folks out on these ranches, and these are people that they don't have a lot of time, they don't have a lot of experience, and so they're going to places where they're probably going to be successful, and man, that's their enjoyment. That's what they get out of it. They have a ton of fun. They're successful. They get to see a lot of animals. Some of us have just a little bit different view of what we want out of it. I want the adventure. I want the knowing that I did it myself, figured it out, found the animals, and made it happen. I don't care how big they are.
Yeah.
Last year, we went into that Tahr hunt just wanting to learn about them and figure out how to find them, locate them, get them on the ground. We weren't looking at trophy quality this year. Obviously, it's like, okay, now we want another step up in age. So now we know what to look for. That's what we're going to be going for. And we're not going to be there. They're not going to be rutting quite yet. So those bulls are going to be off by themselves. A lot more of a challenge there. But I've talked to Remy, and he's got some ideas on how to treat those earlier season bulls.
So you're just trying to, like, the June hunt is much more a rut hunt.
Yeah.
The April hunt's much more pre-rut.
Right.
And you're looking at bulls probably by themselves.
Solo bulls off by themselves, up in the glacier fields, in the rocks, bowls, heads of basins.
So if you want to kill Tahr, go later, but you're also pushing them against the weather. If you want to kill big bulls, maybe, I guess it's still an adventure. It's up high, so it's going to, everything could go wrong. But that's when you're, like, a better chance at a big bull, you think?
I don't know. Honestly, I get mixed reviews on that from people. A lot of people recommend you come April, May. I feel like it was real easy to find the big groups in June, and it was a ton of fun seeing them. And those bulls aren't just walking away from you; they're sticking with all those other goats. But are
they tough to stalk, though?
I think it's going to be. I think we're going to have better opportunity to find just these big loner old bulls that time of year. It's just a different.
It's a different
challenge.
hunt.
Yeah, totally different.
Yeah.
It's like hunting elk during the rut. And hunting elk
post-rut.
Post-rut. Completely different.
They're completely different. It's still, I still love both. I mean,
Absolutely.
I love finding big old bulls in a nasty hole by themselves, post-rut. I also like chasing big bulls when they're screaming, so they're just very different hunts.
Yeah, and New Zealand, it's just filthy with opportunity. I mean, gosh, there's fallow deer. You could go there in the croak when they're doing their rut. That's more in May. The public land stag. There's feral pigs over there. You name it. There's all kinds of animals that you can go for. Opportunity rich environment for sure. And like I said, there's no license fees, no tag fees, none of that. And it's such a different model than we have here, right?
Yeah.
They actually encourage you to shoot more than nannies, which is completely different.
Well, they're trying to get rid of them.
Yeah, they are. And so, like, you let somebody know, I shot a bull. Did you shoot any of the nannies that were with it? If there's more than 4 or 5, it's almost like a little bit of shame going on if you didn't shoot those nannies.
I mean, just to shoot nannies and leave them is like, you would just feel like, oh my God, this is everything I'm against.
Can't do it.
And then over there, that's like, they almost look at it the opposite.
Right.
If you didn't, you're like, probably think
you're doing an
American.
injustice if you didn't shoot those nannies, which is just, it's so different than our model of conservation here.
That's crazy. It's probably hard to wrap your head around, too.
It is.
So logistically wise, what's the planning process look for you right now? Like, okay, when you booking your flight as early as you can, like choose dates, book flights. What else do you have to get done? Like in these times, like you're leading up to it right now. So you're what, a month out?
So we've booked up, our airline tickets are all taken care of well in advance. In all honesty, cost wise, we picked ours up for $11.50-ish.
That's not terrible.
You get them far enough in advance, you get a pretty good price. Yeah. Last year it ran us like $1,400 or $1,500 or something like that. So, the other additional costs are rental car, and that's going to be an expense. I think last year it cost us about $700.
So are you renting the car basically the whole time you're gone?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
So it is an expense there, but if you can avoid motels, if you can avoid buying a whole pile of food, what I did for food last year is I just brought all my dehydrated stuff from here. You can't bring like your own DIY type stuff. It has to be like in a professional package. So I brought a lot of like off-grid and Heather's Choice. I brought a ton of that. Yeah. Those prepackaged type snacky stuff. Everything you'd find in your box.
Yeah. So Ryan just raids backcountry fuel.
Yeah, exactly. That's the kind of stuff that you got to bring, and bring enough of that so that you don't have to purchase food. It is expensive if you go eat out and you have to go to the store. And
see, this is why I need to subscribe to the box.
That's right.
Get the box all year, and then go to New Zealand
Start
and be like,
up.
Stock it all the way. So food had to bring yourself. Basically, it's all the same stuff that you're going to take with you on a backcountry deer hunt.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
And
the nice thing about it, we're going to do the chopper thing this year. We just saw such advantage and time savings in that. Yeah, it's going to run about $1,000, but
I'd rather be hunting.
You split that up, 3 guys. It's not that bad, and it gets you. It might save you 4 days of travel.
Yeah.
And time is very, very precious over there. You're taking a trip like that.
How many days are you going for?
We're going to go for about 3 weeks, so we got a lot of time.
What's your recommendation? I think most people are like, that's never going to happen. And I don't want that to be the hurdle. Like,
no.
I
don't know. My mindset is if you're going to take a trip like that, you're going to take a lot of time off work. You're going to put a lot of time, energy, money into it. Mm-hmm. Get as many days as possible. 2-week minimum, I would say.
2-week minimum.
Because you got 4 days of travel. You got 2 days of flying there, 2 days coming back. So that alone gobbles up some time. I wouldn't want to be there for less than 2 weeks, especially when you're just learning.
And that's true. And if you're going to go DIY.
You're figuring out the country, you're figuring out the animals, the behavior, all that. And you don't want to be rushed. And at any time of year, you could deal with weather. So if you're buckled down in the teepee for a couple, 3, 4, 5 days.
It could be your whole hunt.
Yeah, so.
Your 4 days of travel, 3 days of weather out.
As many days as you can stack up. 2 weeks, I would say, is a minimum.
What's a good amount of people? Like, if I'm like, I want to go on this hunt, should I take one person? Should I take 4 people? Like you said, it splits the cost of the car because you only need one car. Splits the cost of the chopper. What's a realistic number? The problem is sometimes, like, if I was going elk hunting and taking 4 guys, that's going to be real hard to kill 4 elk, right?
Sure.
Probably similar with stag. Like, can all 4 dudes kill Tahr and?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I think the Tahr numbers are such that everybody can have success. Chamois, Tahr.
What's a chopper sit though? Like 3 people. Probably.
It's 3 people. So you're going to be looking at extra expense with 4 guys. Okay. Absolutely.
So you have to cut that one friend out.
Cut that one friend out. Yeah, and also chopper rides are kind of based on time in the air.
Yeah.
There's places they can buzz you up 20 minutes and you're in some phenomenal country. From what I saw last year, even where you're starting from the chopper pad, you are in it. You are so far out in the middle of nowhere already. Yeah. You don't have to go very far in that ride. And, it might be a $700 chopper ride. And that's, in and out. So
that's a quick one. So we got flights booked. We'll get all of our gear kind of prepped. What's it take to get a gun over there? Is that complicated?
Yeah, so that's definitely.
Is it better just go archery then?
Archery's easy. Last year I did not bring a rifle in. This year I am bringing a rifle and my bow. For myself, the bow is easy. There's nothing required. But you do have to basically fill out some paperwork. You go through, there's a website you go through and fill it all out. There was like after the shooting last year, Christchurch, it kind of changed a little bit. They were a little more stringent on bringing rifles in. But I went through the permit process, 3-4 weeks ago, and I had that thing approved in like less than a week. There was a fear that it might take over 30 days, so I did it well in advance.
Yeah.
But it was real simple, to be quite honest. I mean, serial numbers on the gun, just information on yourself. It wasn't that difficult. You also want to make sure that your passport's up to date well in advance. That's last year I screwed up on that. I don't do a lot of traveling out of the country. That trip came up, and my passport had expired, just expired. So I had to do a rush on that, and that's why I couldn't get my rifle, because I didn't have the permit numbers. I had to put my passport number on there, so I didn't have it, but it worked out. Brian had his this year. I've got mine, so I'm good to go. But it's just one of those things.
So rifle permits, that
took me like an hour online to get the permit process done.
So that's real easy. Are you booking a hotel anywhere on the first day you get there, or are you
No.
basically just, I'm going to grab a car from the rental place, throw our stuff in it, and we're going to run out to some public land, or you're going straight to the helipad?
Straight to it. What we did last year is when we had to sleep, we just pulled over, just like you would here.
Yeah.
Found a little piece, and you just pull over and either sleep on the ground or throw the teepee up as cheap as possible.
Yeah.
Those type trips, you just wanna rough it and eat the food you brought.
Yeah.
Try not to eat out. We ended up getting a motel. There was a cost there, not crazy expensive, like $100 a night or something like that. I think we did 2 nights on our way out, but a lot of that had to do with we needed
that's what I was gonna say.
Area to cut meat.
Yeah, you got to deal with all this stuff. So you need a DIY to get it back.
We had to pick up a pot down, to boil the skulls out, which I did.
So before we get there, we grab a car, we're going to the helipad, we're meeting them there at this time.
Yep.
If we got to kill time, we're just sleeping on the road. Heli's going to take us in, drop us off. We say we hunt for 2 weeks, or let's say 10 days. Hunt for 10 days, we're coming back out. Here's a scheduled date, that land. Now what do I do? I got 2 Tahr coming out of the backcountry. I get back to my rental car. Now what do I do?
So if that's the end of your trip, So what we did was we broke the Tahr down back there. We took the hides out,
in the backcountry.
Fully caped them out and everything, and brought them out. And
what'd you store the meat in? Like meat bags or dry bags?
Panga bags, those Yeti Pangas. We basically put them in game bags. Got them once we got back to the helipad. Went found some ice, loaded those up in those Pangas. The rental car that we had was one of those Highlanders. It's like the biggest thing that we could find. And just not a ton of space, man. And we don't have coolers. Yeah. So it was ice and Panga bags. They're totally waterproof.
That's smart because they take up less room.
They do. And you can pack those in with your luggage.
Yeah.
So what we did was we got out from that helipad, and that's where we immediately went and found us a hotel. They've got an Airbnb system similar to ours.
Oh, really?
And you can pick up a house for fairly cheap as well.
Would you go that route or a hotel route? I feel like a house is much better.
A house would have been better. We just couldn't find one in that area that we were at. That was as affordable as the $100 motel. So we found a little motel. It happened to be right next to this little pub. And, what we were trying to find was a freezer, right? And somebody had reached out and they said, you can borrow mine, but then we would have had to have driven to a couple towns up. But we just walked into this little pub and we're like, hey, any chance if we bring a couple of bags in here full of meat, we can toss them in your freezer? And they're like, oh yeah. We're like, hey, we'll pay you $50. And they're like, nah, go for it. Just put it in. And so we spent a better part of a day in that motel room just whittling, breaking down meat into like 2-pound packages. Yeah. Picked up some Ziplocs. Next year I'll bring my own, save some cost there.
Really?
We burned through a lot of zips and bags. Like,
bring your own Ziploc. How much were Ziplocs in New Zealand?
I don't know, but everything is expensive over there. And you know how cheap I am, Cody.
Yeah.
Easy to throw, just a box of zips, like the gallon zips, some trash bags, stuff like that. And I just broke everything down into like 2-3 pounds per, individually frozen. garbage bag those up, toss those in a panga. It's about 50 to 55 pounds. You don't want to go over that because when you bring them back, there's a limit of 55 pounds. We tossed those in that little pub's freezer and left them there. We said, we're going hunting. We'll be back.
So if you were like going to do like this year, I guess, where you have like multiple hunts lined up. Yeah. Are you going to like line up some pub?
So what we have is we have a guy over there. He's actually an outfitter, and we're not going to be getting outfitted or anything like that. But he's a buddy of a buddy, and he's got freezers. And one of the guys actually met at the helipad last year when we were coming out. A real nice guy, Jared. He saw the animals we brought out, and he kind of lined me out on how to determine age and all these kinds of things. And he was really interested in what we were doing and this and that and the films.
He just think you were crazy because you're like, why would you go all the way back there when they're standing right here?
Yeah, and, well, he does a lot of outfitting, and he does some public stuff, but he does more of the ranch type stuff. And obviously he was making his pitch like, hey, we got some giant stag here if you want to come. I think we're okay. But he's become someone that I can bounce ideas off, and he's very open with the knowledge, and he's always hitting me up on social and chatting it up as far as what he's doing. But he's like, hey, feel free. If you're here, let's go do a pig hunt or whatever. Stay at my place if you'd like. Use my freezers if you'd like. Use my rifle if you'd like.
You're getting soft, Ryan. You're getting soft.
He's just like,
staying in houses.
Hey, I'm not staying there, Cody. But the offer is there. Just a real nice guy. Yeah. They're just so nice and willing to help out. And so he's a guy that I've got a ton of information from. But there's opportunity to do that, use his freezers. And if we don't do that, we're going to go around and find a pub and throw 50 at them and see if we can get it in there.
Store it there for a week.
Yeah.
Which, that's no different than I would do if I was hunting in Idaho. There's meat lockers or whatever.
Yeah. So we were in a pretty small town, so the pub makes sense. But if we don't have that opportunity, we'll head into one of the major towns, whether that's Christchurch or Queenstown, and find an actual freezer.
Find somewhere to put your meat. Yeah. I like that idea. Just, okay, let's break it down like you would. It's no different than I would do here. Like, put it in Ziploc bags, throw it in the freezer until I'm going to do all my meat processing.
Freeze it solid.
And it's going to go home.
Pick up that bag right before you come back. And
with your
home.
cape and your horns and all that, what did you have to do without incriminating yourself here? What's got to get done? So you went and bought a pot, a boiler, basically had to do your own gyros there. Got them nice and clean, right?
Yeah, I just boiled them all up, scraped them, cleaned them, bleached them, everything. Basically dried them out with a hairdryer that was in that motel. And
poor hotel.
Saran wrap, duct tape.
Did you cook them inside or outside?
Oh, we cooked them inside.
Oh, God. Just brain stew.
So
maybe Airbnb is a better option if it's possible.
We would definitely go Airbnb this next time if access to one. But the limited time that we had there, and we found that they were more pushing in that $200 to $240 range, a lot of them. So we found it was way cheaper to just pick up a hotel.
And you just bought a pot kettle from the hardware store right there.
That was it.
Do your own heads. As far as cape, what did you have to salt it? Did you have to scrape it?
What they want you to do is they want you to salt it for 10 days.
Yeah.
Obviously, for us, we don't have that kind of time. So you can use a broker, a taxidermist, and go that route and have them take care of everything, but it's very expensive.
So hypothetically, a friend did XYZ.
Told me, he's like, this is what you can do. He's like, freeze it up, roll it up, roll it up and then freeze it, completely seal it off, saran wrap it, duct tape it, bag it, and completely frozen solid, have that with the meat and bring it back. And what you have to do, and what he said, is have this certificate of non-CITES. So it's a non-CITES permit that explains that the animal that you have with you is a part of that non-CITES. It's just a little permit that we actually had the hotel gal printed off of their website, the DOC
really?
website, and she just printed it off, and we each had a copy. So when you travel through, that's what you show them, and you're good to go.
Okay.
So it was really easy. A lot of people do recommend you go through a broker, but again, we're trying to save dollars, and it is a lot more expensive. Now, if we were to get lucky and get a couple of public land stag, probably going to have to go through a broker. I don't see any way that you're going to get those antlers back through.
Oh, really? Not even the antlers?
I don't think so. Just because of the size and everything. And I carry those skulls back right through customs and all that.
Did you really just put them in your carry-on bag? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had 4 skulls in my carry-on coming back, but they were completely cleaned, dried.
Yeah, you might as well have bought them in a shop.
And nobody gave me any grief over it. So.
They didn't say anything. They're just like, yeah.
No, and they said that was totally legit.
Huh.
So,
I wonder. Not that this is ideal, but I wonder if you could cut, like, a moose, when you bring it back, they say you can, like, cut the horns off and
you can puzzle
them back together.
Yeah.
I think you could do that with stag.
You probably could.
And just carry
at the base plate or the skull plate there.
I think if you're going to go DIY, the size of animal that you're going to kill is probably, like, it's not like you're carrying a 350
It's
stag
going to be
back.
more of a raghorn elk type critter for sure. So, yeah, if you got to... It's still going to be an issue, even if it's a smaller bull. But
what's the cost on a broker then?
Oh gosh, I think off the top of my head, I think it was going to run like $1,500 to $2,000 to get all that stuff shipped back.
So Tahr hunting is way cheaper.
Yeah,
because you can bring it back.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, I almost want to get a smaller stag so you can get it in your carry-on and bring it back.
So it's about $1,500 to have it brought back.
Yeah.
And if anybody's like listening to this and they know a better way, like post it up, we'll put it in the show notes as well.
Yeah, and I just talking to those guys over there, they said, yeah, this is the way to do it. Clean it up, make it sure it's really nice and clean and dry and everything's looking good. And there could be an opportunity that somebody won't know the rules and they'll give you some grief.
Yeah.
Possibility is there that they may just want to take it, and then you got to deal with that. But I did that risk. I took that risk versus paying $1,500 to ship
for sure. Now, if it was like
back.
A blonde Tahr that you're like, oh, I'm gonna get this full body mounted, I would probably just like pay the broker.
I think so,
because like that's such a rare thing.
You don't want to have that taken away.
Yeah, that'd be a bad deal. No, that's awesome. And what other like tips, advice did you learn the first year that maybe you'll bring in this year? Like obviously, I think the first one is that you're going for longer. The longer you can go, the better. But like, is there any other like things that you learned on your first trip that you're kind of implementing your second trip?
Yeah, for sure. I think gear wise, I learned some of the things that we want to have with us, especially being up in that glacier type rocky country. Full crampons for number one. I mean, full crampons, a harness. Each guy have a harness and some rope.
Really?
Just because maybe you're not going to need it to cover country, but if you drop one and he dumps down into a slide that's just a little bit too slick, and that hard ice is, once you start sliding, it's tough. So I want to be a lot more careful with that. Last year we took some chances. We took some risks.
Yeah, you were
that time of year.
There was probably people like, that's dumb.
Yeah.
Also, you need an ice axe probably.
Yeah, got one.
Did you get a whippet now?
No, I didn't get the whippet. I got a full.
You got an ice axe?
Yeah. Yep.
Why'd you go ice axe over whippet? Just out of curiosity.
I broke a whippet.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I could see that.
Yeah,
like, whippet's probably not like, life or death.
Yeah.
Like you really got to jab.
Well, I broke it just using it as basically a little pick for flattening out a spot.
Really?
It just wasn't the toughest.
There's one sitting in my office somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but I could see that now because it's just that little bolt that screws in the top.
Yeah, they're just not as tough as a straight up ice axe.
Not something you want to put your life on.
No, I don't want to rely on that for a little ice arrest if I'm sliding down a glacier.
I've never used much ice axe. Like, have you used them at all?
A little bit.
Do you just carry it and a trekking pole? So you got both sissy sticks and a...
I'll carry both trekkers for sure. And I'll just have that ice axe strapped. Obviously, covering a glacier, I'll have the ice axe in my hand. But for an ice arrest, for sure, you're not going to always have it out.
Yeah. I didn't even know what an ice axe was. I didn't know what it was for until... I'm like, this is the worst trekking pole ever. Only Jaden could use this trekking pole.
It definitely has advantages, kicking out areas to set up a shelter and whatnot. It does come in handy to have that little scoop on there and pick things off. But the ability to stop on those ice fields. Last year we didn't have that. We should have. We were kind of foolish in a way, but we just did everything as cautiously and slow as we could, but we could have had an incident for sure.
Yeah. Well, that buck that you were just holding, that one, I did some self-arrest and almost died 3 times. Yeah, that's how I learned what an ice axe was for. I was like, oh, this would be really handy in this situation.
Yeah, the 3 pieces of gear are just that, having an ice axe, crampons, and some rope.
Do you think you'll need them in April, though?
No idea, but there are glacier fields, and that's where we hope to find some of those older bulls. And if we're going to be up there, we're definitely going to have the gear.
Is that a secret that we're like giving away right here? Is like glacier fields, like hunt around the glacier fields?
Could be. I don't know. Makes sense. It's kind of like everything else up top, right? Pre-rut, I think everything I've heard from people. How
close to scouting for big mule deer bucks is scouting for tahr? Like how similar is it?
I don't know yet. I'm not sure. When I was there, everything was rut and they were all grouped up. This year, it's going to be way different. We're going to be looking for those solo bulls off in those big shale type basins. I hope it's similar. That would be great if it was real similar and it reminded me of mule deer hunting.
Yeah.
But you're basically up at the top of
you
the
did
top
learn.
of the world.
I know you were telling me last year you learned kind of the hard way that tahr on top.
Yeah.
And I think it's something Remy had told you is like, hey, they're on top. And I think you had looked around a little bit and like couldn't find any tahr, and then like started looking up and you're like, oh man.
Well, it's interesting. Like we were, going in completely blind, and we had talked to people and they said, yeah, a lot of those nannies will come down and they'll start feeding in the tussock and whatnot, and those bulls will come down with them and the bulls will be with them. But so we were seeing all this nice tussock grass, and we're thinking, well, this is where we need to be looking. But we were like not at the head of basin at all, not even close. And what looked good to us, it just wasn't the ideal habitat for them. They stayed up on the top and they just found tussock that was a little bit closer to the top. So they didn't come down that far at all. And once we started looking way high, even in June with all that snow, in areas where you just would think they wouldn't want to, habitate. They're just up in the rocks and snow, and you don't see any grass.
They call them Himalayan tahr for a reason.
Yeah, but then they come down. They come a long ways down. They'll get a little feed, and they'll work themselves right back up. And, those northern slopes where, where the snow is kind of going off the mountain, that's where they were, but at the very top. So really? It was just real interesting that I felt like, man, there's a lot better feed down here, but they're not down here. Even with no predators, they're still.
Yeah, but why do mountain goats live where they live?
Right. Mountain lions here, but there are no predators in New Zealand.
Though. I think
it's just built into their DNA.
They're built in their DNA, but tahr came from the Himalayas. They had cats, so they live in anti-cat country.
Because they are super cautious. They get on those. They get on these little rock cliffs, and they're looking down, just like they're looking for predators.
Yeah.
Super cautious and leery, and yet New Zealand has none.
Yeah.
Like feral cats is their predator.
I just think
the craziest thing.
Small brains, and it's thousands and thousands of years built into them, so that's what they do.
Yeah.
But I don't know them very well. South facing or north facing? Like you were talking about north facing slopes. Do they sit on north face slopes?
Yeah.
Really?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep. It's different down there.
Oh, yeah. Duh. That makes complete sense. So it would be a south facing.
Yeah.
South is the opposite down there. Yeah. Man, what a cool hunt. So getting ready to plan that should be fun.
Man, I'm looking forward to it. I mean, to have this time, I feel so fortunate to be able to go down there now. And again, though, I'm 46 years old. It took me 45 years to finally go see New Zealand. Absolutely. Look, full credit to Remy Warren. He went and saw that place, 10, 12 years ago. And he fell in love with it, and for good reason. I mean, it is next level challenge if you're up for an adventure or just the challenge of a hunt or learning new species. There's a lot of hunts out there that don't excite me. But something about those tahr where they live, the difficulty of terrain, treating it like a mountain goat hunt, and the fact that I haven't had the opportunity to do a mountain goat hunt, that excited me. And so now I'm hooked, man. I mean, there's chamois as well, and they live in a different type terrain, more of the rocky type terrain. and then that public land stag, and gosh, there's fallow deer.
The fallow deer look cool too, though.
They do, and
you don't see a lot of guys hunting those.
No, I think they're a lot tougher to find areas that aren't private. Finding those on public, from what I'm gleaning from people, is a little bit more difficult. There's a lot of fallows, on that South Island, but a lot more on the private type lands, and getting access to those is a lot more difficult. So I'd rather just stick with the public lands and chase tahr and chamois and
I think
stag.
It's a progression, though. It's no different than your deer and elk career's progression. Like, you're going to go down there, the first time, like, I just want to shoot a tahr. That's super cool. And you're going to shoot one, and then now you're going back. You're like, okay, I want to kill a little bit better bull, or, it's a progression. And, like, these are the guys that, I give them crap because they're getting into hunting. Like, well, why you only look for big bulls? Like, well, I've been doing it for 20 years. Like, it's what interests me now.
Well, and you get both sides, right? We got some grief last year for shooting not the oldest bulls from some people. But I had to remind them. I was like, look.
It's like first trip.
Yeah, this is completely new to me. I'm a rookie tahr hunter. I just want to, I've learned, what I learned was where to find them. And until I put one on the ground and could look at it up close and, put my hands on it and count rings and see how, talk to somebody who could show me, I learned a ton. So the progression is this year. We want to go into some more remote country, find some older class bulls. And now that we've had the, we've had the success on just tahr period, we want to go for those older ones. So that's going to be the goal. I don't feel like I need to go over there and shoot those younger bulls now. I've done it. But the next level is try to find an old Billy in a pre-rut up on those glaciers, up in the rocks. And, man, I'm excited. I can't wait to get over there.
That's awesome.
So,
I'm pumped for it. A little bit jealous. Don't get to go this year. Let's walk into Western Hunting Summit a little bit.
Sure.
We're running out of time. But if you guys want to come learn how to do these adventure type hunts firsthand, get the experience. And I think a lot of this stems back to going after experiences and not necessarily things. And I talk about that all the time. Like, buy tags, not gear. Yeah, you need gear, but what I'm saying is go have these experiences. Going to New Zealand is an experience. Last year, Ryan had the Western Hunting Summit, and we were a big part of that. And it was amazing to me what that turned out. What I thought it was going to be, and then what it ended up being was so cool. Just getting to meet those people and having this, experience together. We went up on Sphinx and we hiked that. We had this big camp out and we told stories, and it was just such a good time. But on top of that, I think, back, in the beginning of the podcast, we talked about taking that first step into a new state. I think very much so your Western Hunting Summit is that for a lot of people. It's like, I want to get into doing adventure hunts, these type of hunts, and I don't know where to start. This is, to me, is the first step. You're going to go out and we're going to go on this hike and we're going to do a camp trip, and then, you're going to sit down and learn from some of the best people, Barney, yourself, Remy, all these guys that have been there, done that, on how to take that first step. To me, it's coaching on how to take your first step on your first adventure. Mm-hmm. And maybe this is me speaking on the Western Hunting Summit for you, but talk a little bit about that and, what you got planned coming up this year for the Western Hunting Summits.
Yeah, Matt, I like how you phrased that. I think originally when we put it together, we wanted to treat it more as like a mentorship for guys that are kind of intimidated with coming out west. Thinking of the guys coming from the east that have dreamed about coming out west, or maybe just adult onset guys that haven't had access to the mentorship to learn how to do a hunt like this. We're so blessed and lucky to live in these mountain states, and you and I have done this our entire lives. There's a lot of people that are very intimidated. Maybe they didn't have a father that took them out, showed them how to do these big trips. And as far as the education part, I wanted to bring guys like you, guys like Brian Barney. This year we have guys like Remy, Mark Livesey. We have just a whole host of presenters, and I wanted anybody that came to this to have access to all of these guys, to be able to not just sit down in chairs and listen to them talk about their experience and what they feel like you need to know, but also have the ability to go up on the mountain, come along with us, one-on-one, hike with them on the trail, have anybody and everybody be able to bounce questions off of you. and have you answer them on the trail, on the mountain. You know, we spent a lot of time last year up there by the Sphinx and glassing, and, you know, we picked up I don't even know how many animals we picked up while we were up there. It was a lot. You know, we saw a lot of G-bears and a lot of black bears and elk and muleys and goats and everything. And for the inexperienced guys, I mean, that was a real unique experience for them. I feel like what I thought was going to be more of an education turned into this like all-encompassing experience. It was just a fun 4 days of a little bit of adventure. Yeah. You know, the hike out of there was cool. We got to cross a river like, I don't know, 10 times. Most people got pretty wet. We had some pretty good workouts from Old Mountain Tough and, you know, some good food, some competition there with the archery stuff and trying to beat Brian Barney, and had Dave Brinker out there singing. And it was just a fun 4 days. I felt like, man, it turned out so well. And we just want to continue to make it better and bring guys in that are high value type guys, like Mark Livesey, for example. Yeah. His presentation that he gave, you know, a lot of guys think of e-scouting and they kind of poo-poo it, right? It's like, spend a little time on the computer. And then you talk to a guy like Mark, or you look at his presentation, you're like, man, I'm missing some things in my world here.
Dude, you and I were taking notes.
I could definitely upgrade my e-scouting abilities, and Mark is so good. He's such a good teacher, and he's just got such good information. He's a real techie type guy. He's that guy that's got like 4 screens in front of him, and he's, you know, putting KLM files and just mixing and matching, and he's just, it's doing amazing.
Overlays and all kinds of stuff.
Oh, it's great, and it is really, really helpful. His is one of my favorite presentations. Yeah. And because I feel like there was just a crud ton of information that you just don't get out there. And again, guys like Brian Barney, I don't know that there's a more positive, like motivational type dude. You sit in front of him for an hour, listen to his talk on backcountry hunting. This year it'll be more specific, whether it's mule deer or bear or elk. And then you get a hike with the guy and you realize there's a reason this guy is successful. If you want to be successful, you might want to do a few of the things that Brian Barney does.
Oh, for sure.
His positive attitude, I can't state that enough. It's contagious, for one. And it's one of the biggest reasons why he's so successful. The guy never gets sour on a hunt at all. His physical game is some of the best. I mean, the guy never slows down. I remember dudes last year on that hike saying, I tried to just keep a conversation going with Brian, hoping he would slow down, you know, because I felt like when he was talking, he slowed down a little bit. But,
barely.
Yeah, barely, right? But the guy's an animal, and having access to those type people is what I want. And I feel like it's not just an education anymore. I feel like this is just a 4-day experience that's going to be helpful for people that want to learn. And the 2 days on the mountain, that's pretty valuable. You can just kind of see it through our actions on what we're doing, how we're glassing, sit down next to you, pick apart a mountain, find an animal, talk about what your approach would be, talk about how you would treat that type terrain.
And we spent a lot of time last time when we were glassing, and Barney and I, there's a few guys that were there, and we're like, okay, they'd be like, you know, hypothetically, you hear a bugle right there, and Barney would be like, here's how I would do it, and then I was like, well, here's how I would do it, and then like bouncing that off, which is invaluable to like look at ground and see an actual versus, you know, I could say it on a podcast, but I don't have a visual. I'm like, okay, there's a canyon and there's a bench.
And people learn differently too, right? Yeah. I mean, I learn way better on hand, like hands-on. You know, getting to hang with successful people like that, you're actually seeing what they're doing. Everything from where they set up camps to, you know, their whole gear list while they're on the mountain. I don't know about that, because Barney was
like, had his little teepee on the side of a cliff. I was like, okay,
he doesn't need much.
No, it's so true. And when you and I were bouncing ideas for this thing, that was a year ago, it was like, I had thought the same thing you did. I thought it was going to be like this very educational, like, piece. Like, man, you're going to learn from the best. You're going to have mentorship, and that's what I thought the value was then. Right. And then I did the thing, and I realized that it was like, okay, for half of these people, this is jumping off the curb. Like this is taking the first, like helping you take the first step to be like, oh, I can do this. We just went and camped in grizzly country. We just did this thing. And I saw, and I talked to a lot of guys who were like, I'm going on this hunt now. Like, and that was their first step. And I didn't never realize, and I think I take for granted the fact that we do this, and it's nothing like, okay, let's go to New Zealand. And like, those are our steps. But for some people, it's like going on a mule deer hunt's their first step. And so I did see like, man, the first step was like, that's it. And for some of these people, just the pure educational was probably way over their heads. Like it was, Livesay talking about e-scouting on a 301 level like you've never seen.
Yeah.
And Barney talking about, how hardcore he is, or yourself. And like, I realized that there's two types. For the very beginner, it's like, I'm stepping off and I realize how easy it is and I can do this. For most, like the average hunter, you got to look behind the curtain to see how the engine really runs, and you're like, wow, these guys are on another level. And that was very much me. I'm like, man, you see firsthand how hard Ryan Lampers and Brian Barney work for what they do. And like, so like for the average hunter, the guy, like I call them the 201s, that you get to see what a 301 looks like. And you're like, okay, I could take it up a level. So I think there's two types. And the beginners, man, it was just you and I talked to a lot of these guys. I'm like, man, this is so cool. Like now I feel like I can go do it. I can go whatever, go on this hunt, go on that hunt.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, one of the things that we had talked about is that learning curve, cutting a couple of years off the learning curve. And I feel like we did that in droves last year with the information that we put out there. But consistent success, we see it all the time, right? Every year. There's guys that fill tags every year, almost every hunt. Brian Barney type people.
Yeah.
There's things that he does. There's things that he has in his nature. There's things that he does in the off season.
Just another level.
Preparation. There's reasons why he's like that. For people that want to be like that, you need to pay attention to guys that do it. And so I feel like being able to spend 4 days with a guy like that, and all of us, you as well, it's like there's people that find success every year. To be able to spend 4 days, hang out, have fun, have this experience, glass on the mountain, eat good food, have some competition.
We ate your Tahr last year on the mountain.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I brought it.
We had Ryan's Tahr from the trip before because he just got back, and we had Tahr tacos. And nobody brought seasoning, and that was still like some really good meat. I was super impressed.
I know Mark was like, "You didn't bring the seasoning?" I was like, "No, just brought the burger." And then we ate it, and we're like, "Oh, we didn't eat it." And it was good anyway. But no, it was a ton of fun. And this year, it's going to be a little bit different. I've got the Bear Summit, which is earlier. There's going to be 3 days spent on the mountain on the Bear Summit. I feel like one more day is needed for that, and 1 day in the classroom. It's going to be more mountain time. And we did just open another Elk Summit date because the first one sold out so fast. And so this one, we have Joel Turner coming in, and he's a huge advantage to have. I really wanted Joel to be at last year's summit. We just couldn't get our dates aligned, but he's such a great shooting instructor. I mean, the guy, he's a sniper trainer. I mean, he's the guy that trains the SWAT guys, and he's an eclectic dude, man. He's a unique individual, no doubt about it.
He's got a way of teaching that's amazing.
But his way of teaching is off the charts. He will make you a better shooter. His elk calling, same way. He's got a system that works. It works extremely well. It's worked for him, works for a lot of people. So he's going to be at the June 4th through June 7th summit.
And so that one still has dates available?
Yep. We just got passes up on the website for that one to be available.
Cool. So where do we sign up for this? WesternHuntingSummit.com?
WesternHuntingSummit.com.
And mule deer sold out or available?
Yeah, I think there's like one spot left for mule deer is all, because we moved one of the guys from mule deer to elk, so there's one spot left for that.
So you get on it if you want it, WesternHuntingSummit.com. Sign up for that. The VIP is what gets you the access to the whole hike. So if you want to do the hike, go hang out with us. sign up for the VIP section.
We're going to have llamas and Livesey's llamas and the whole bit for both those.
Packing dinner for us.
Yep.
No, it's a good time. Go check it out, guys. Highly, highly recommend it. Even if you're a good hunter, like you can take it to the next level. If you've never done this before, I think it's great for both. We had both last year, and everyone said they absolutely loved it. Huge return rate actually on people that came back. So if you guys want to check it out, do so. Thank you, Ryan. Good luck in New Zealand. A little jealous. Have fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, buddy.
Thanks, Cody.
Hey guys, thanks for listening, and we hope you enjoyed the show and maybe even picked up a few tips along the way. Join us right here every Thursday morning for more interviews and great hunting tips. And be sure to help us out by leaving a review on iTunes. For more information about this show and the rest of our guests, check out the show notes for links and additional resources on our website, www.therichoutdoors.net.